Good?
Yeah.
Good. Ready to rock?
Yes, ready to rock.
Ready to rock. All right. Hello and welcome to the Panhandle Primate Podcast. I am your host, Dexter Kearley. I am joined by my associate, my podcast host,
Trent Peterson.
Trent Peterson.
Hey, did you forget who I was?
Do what? What is his name?
What's that guy's name over
Yeah.
there?
So, thank you for joining us today. This is, I would say, probably the first official podcast recording in here.
I think we have kind of deemed
We've done a lot of tests. We've done a lot of tests.
We're
But
getting close.
as far as the video looking good, the microphones, the stands, cables,
I think we're getting there.
setup only took us, an hour today?
Yeah,
So we're really gaining ground.
absolutely.
But this has always been, it's funny because when you first said, hey, I want to do a podcast studio, part of me was like, oh, okay, that's going to be great because once we get it built out. But then I was like, building it out is going to take a little bit of time.
Absolutely.
But I think it's coming together. It's looking great. So today's episode is going to be over Meshtastic.
Okay.
Mesh nodes, mesh networks. And at the end of the last episode that I have published, not that we've recorded, but that I've published, is whenever I go on that little spiel and I say the three things that you have to have in order to sustain a revolution
Right.
is Meshtastic, compost, and a gasifier.
Okay. I'm with
So Meshtastic is one of those aspects. And I've recently been getting more into it. I've been buying some devices, getting some stuff going. And so I decided, well, how about just doing a topic? Because, I guess I don't know if the viewer knows, but I typically have these rants
you. Oh, yeah.
that are almost like pre-programmed. And you got to
love
be
it.
careful because it's like a landmine. It's like, don't step on one of Dexter's rants. Because when I start, it's very hard for me to just shut up, dude.
I
Disengage.
think if you have time, it's always good and it's always interesting. But if you are, if you have previously scheduled events, yes, don't step into one of those landmines because
Yes.
you will be there discussing that for a while.
Yeah, and I've heard it described in the past as a time suck. They call it a time suck. It's like, oh man, that's an hour and a half of my life I'm never going to get back right there. Anyway, I've been talking a lot about Meshtastic. I have a few different devices now. So, I got my first T-Deck, LilyGo mobile, or I guess it's just called a T-Deck. But it fires on with the Meshtastic software, and it sends messages over radio waves. So I guess I should rewind a little bit.
Yeah, it's awesome though. Yeah.
Let me
tell us about it.
with Meshtastic. I was trying to come up with a good definition for it. And it's decentralized off-grid network of independent nodes that can send low bandwidth data packages. So
Okay.
it's an off-grid communications network.
It's going to be very, very needed.
So
I
it's
think
pretty.
at some point. No matter what,
Oh, no matter what,
whether you're a
we
conspiracy
do it.
theorist or not, just on a daily, it'd be
Well,
great
we do
to
it all
have
the
that.
time, right? We do it all the time.
We just lost cell phone service for a whole weekend, a couple weekends ago. Would have been
Exactly.
great to have that functional then.
And so this is what's interesting is, I guess I could hold it in this hand. I always forget. We got but what's interesting is that this device does not require any cell backup.
Okay.
And it really doesn't require any other devices to operate. Now, in order to have range, it needs other devices. So what a mesh network is, actually here, I got another one here.
While you're looking for that, what is kind of the typical range on that
So
the device you have set up right now that you're about to show us?
it's an interesting question, right? Because,
Loaded?
well, a loaded question?
Is it?
A little bit.
Okay.
So it's just like anything, right? It depends. So if you have a good day and I'm standing on top of a mountain and you're standing on top of a mountain, we can maybe get 100 miles with like one of these devices. If we're down in these little valleys and, beds, we might not be able to get 3 miles. It's just very dependent on the circumstance and the application.
And I think we should be really clear that neither you nor I are communications experts. So there's probably people that could explain why that works a little bit better on those days. But is that running off RF or?
So it's a frequency band. So these operate. So Europe has its own frequency band, and then America has its own frequency band. I think it's like in the 900 megahertz range.
At least that little bit of information helps.
It's like. So, and you have to pick that when you're downloading all the data and stuff. I mean, it's a approved frequency range.
Okay.
So these are approved. These are not illegal devices. They're all approved devices to operate. But anyway, let's see, where was I at?
I'm sorry, I got you off the.
No. That was a great question. Okay, so these little devices, you can buy them. They're super cheap, and you can you build them out. So they come as just like a chip.
Okay.
And then once you get the chip, you can click on batteries, antennas, GPS units. You can click on. I actually want to do an MP3 player. Click on.
I haven't seen one with the antenna on it like you have set up there. That's really cool.
This is a removable antenna.
Yeah,
so
I love
you can
that.
put different. So if you want a little one, you can put that on there. But anyway, this one communicates to. Actually, I don't know. Oh, here I put the phone. So I've got an old phone that's like a burner phone. Doesn't have service to it anymore, and I can Bluetooth from this phone to this device and send a radio frequency message through this device.
With being in airplane mode, basically.
Basically being in airplane mode, right? Yep. So and then I can receive it with this device and Bluetooths over to my phone, and I can, receive the message.
Okay.
So this to say that these two things together with this thing are a communications network, right? So if all power, all grid goes down, these two devices, as long as they can receive each other's signals, they will operate.
So
with no cell service.
Okay, can I ask a question about that?
Sure, you can do. Yeah.
So do you?
I might have an answer. I don't know.
I realize we're still trying to break this down, and that's why I got questions. So did the burner phone? I realize that has the. I would imagine the app or whatever that you need on that to run through that network. Correct? Like not necessarily an app, but the why do you have to have both?
So it's an interface. It's an interface.
What do you need both for? So one's doing one thing, one's doing another.
So this thing just does it all. It receives messages. This receives messages and sends messages.
So that was the question. You don't have to have all three. You can actually make this functional with just the Meshtastic device and whatever you called that again.
Well, you just need this TDEC.
Oh.
So if you had a TDEC and I had a TDEC, we could just message right back and forth between these little devices.
Okay, that's cool too.
Though
over whatever that
you know
distance
what?
is.
How far are we into this episode? And I haven't mentioned the best term yet.
I don't even know.
So explaining it to my kids.
We're almost 10 minutes in.
Okay, so explaining it to my kids, I say this is a walkie-texty.
Okay.
You have a walkie-talkie.
Right.
You have a walkie-texty.
Okay, I like it.
It's the exact same concept, right? If I am in the same house as you, I'm probably going to receive it. If I'm in the same valley as you, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to receive it. But if you go over a couple of hills, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get it because this one doesn't have a big antenna or nothing. Okay. But if we're just sitting, especially if we're sitting this close, I could be texting you, you could be texting me. It's all off of no cell service,
So if the kids in your for instance, at your place, if they were up and walking the trails up there, and you were at the house and they had that device, would it work in that scenario?
If we plan correctly, it will.
Okay.
So the thing is, you can set up nodes. So what a mesh device is like, let's just say we have this device and we have this device, and they're this close, they instantly receive. Actually, I probably can do it real quick. They instantly receive messages. So like right here, I don't know. Can we see it pretty good on the screen?
Yeah, I can see it really good. I think.
Okay, so if I just text the
No,
word,
the focus probably isn't that well on it, but you can see it good.
if I just text the word test, it says from 10 seconds ago, test. It received the message.
Okay.
Right? So this is almost like a pager.
Okay.
I only have 2 buttons.
Right.
Is my only interface into it. So I can receive messages and I can scroll through those messages, but you can't really message out. This one receives, scrolls, texts. You can do everything through this device. This device only receives unless I'm interfacing with my phone. But let's just say I have this device and I have this device. They're this close, they can talk to each other, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's say I take them and I put them 100 miles apart. They cannot talk to each other, right? They're too far apart. But if I put other devices in the middle, it will jump the signal all the way to this device. So the more devices you have running Meshtastic software, which is all open source, it's all, free. The more devices you have, the more robust your communication system becomes.
So would you say that this is a cutting edge technology, or this is a reusage of existing technology?
It's really hard for me. So this is part of what I'm going to talk about in today's episode is mindset, because part of me says, yes, this is a new technology, because it is. Like Meshtastic and Meshtastic is one of the brand names. If you just type that into a Google search, it pops up. These things pop up. They're cheap. I think this one was $90, and that's with a battery, touch screen, keyboard. All I had to do was flash the software into it. And then this hardware was 2 for $50.
Okay.
For this one, so it's kind of like, it's pretty cheap. It's not a super expensive, quote unquote, hobby to get into.
Right.
But the idea is that you can use these devices in conjunction to create a robust communications network that is decentralized and really localized. Are you hearing something in the headphones?
It's my phone, I think, going off here somewhere.
It sounds like a
whistle.
Like a dun 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 dun.
No, I'm not hearing that. I got 8 messages. I mean, somebody could be knocking and wondering where we're at, but I don't know.
It's just coming through my headphones. I think it's probably fine. It's probably something in my headphones. Anyway, where was I at? Okay, so the basically what a mesh network is. Oh, okay, pull it up on the Google. Pull up the rhizome. All right, what we got there?
Hold on a second. I'm trying to interact with that screen. This is also new. That's not gonna work. Let me flip this back over real quick.
Which, that's crazy too about this thing, is it is a touchscreen.
Oh yeah, no.
That's the thing, is like, what's so crazy when you ask, is this a new technology? No, this is not new technology at all. This is like all super basic stuff that has probably been around. I don't know, probably not to this quality, because the chip manufacturing and stuff is amazing and cheap now. Can you see that on there?
I can, but I don't think.
I typed in hello world. So
I think we're missing a little bit of focus on that.
Oh, no worries. So what do you got?
We can work on that.
What do you got
So right here, I mean, we got quite a few things to pull up. It actually, when you said rhizome, it comes up as a philosophy as well.
Interesting.
I can read that.
That might be part of the pitch.
Yeah, no, this is cool. It says a rhizome is a concept in post-structuralism describing an assemblage that admits connections between any of its constituent elements, regardless of any predefined ordering, structure, or entry point. Is a central concept in the work of French theorists.
What French theorists? Does it say there?
Let me go ahead and just open that up a little further. And people can read this as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the best reader right now after the brain injury, but I'll do my best here. Let's see if I can get through it. Looks like Gauls, Deleuze, and Felix Guattari.
I didn't know if either. So I was thinking maybe one of the names would pop out, but I don't think.
Okay.
I do know I am very familiar with this because Shannon, I can't remember what paper she was writing. It was when she was working on her master's. But we got to really talking about this because one of the philosophers that she was, or theorists that she was kind of studying on or learning, he was one of these philosophers based off of the rhizomal thoughts. And, maybe it was a linguistics. Actually, I think it was being implied in linguistics because essentially, all right, imagine you've got these like 6 pods, right? Let's say it's 6 pods with 6 different cultures in it. And you start allowing certain pods to mix with other pods, but only controlled, right?
Okay.
You start to have like spillover into the pods. They start to become connected, and you can tell where they're like branching out from and everything. And I think he had something to do with that, with language development and growth, maybe.
Okay.
But anyway, she ended up getting into this theorist too, though, and like digging in and like figuring out all this stuff. Well,
I think you're 100% on it. Even this, I mean, there is a book, and this kind of goes back to us talking about whether this is a new technology or old technology. Even the looks like what they're trying to make happen here. This is a 1975 book.
1975, dude.
Right, Kafka, towards a minor literature. Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of what you were leading to, probably maybe even the book you were discussing with Shannon. But it says it's to suggest Kafka's work. It's not bound by a linear narrative structure, but it can be entered to in it. I'm sorry. It can be entered into at any point to map out connections with other points.
Yes. And so
I think that's what you were...
That is what a mesh network is, right?
Okay.
A mesh network is a series of nodes, and they're constantly making contact with other nodes and saying, hey, do you have something for me? I don't have anything from you or for you, but do you have anything for me? Mm-hmm. And then they say, they talk back and forth making these connections. Well, if I put a message in and say, I need this to go to Trent, they're developing the software, and the software does exist to make that message jump through multiple nodes until it lands at the person that you're wanting it to message,
Right.
It's not perfect. It's still in the development stage. It's all open source. There are some specific brands that are building out these devices and selling them more commercially. I hope to maybe eventually be selling some commercially as well, because there is something to be said about quality and the fact that, a lot of people, it's fun to build out the hardware, but there's a lot of people who also just say, hey, I want it to come in a box. I want to push the power on button and I want it to work. There's a lot of people like that. So, and I think that those options do exist as well.
I think this is a good time to take a break for our sponsors if we had any.
Oh, yeah. If we had any.
Yeah. And then we'll be right back. Back, I'm just not as engaged.
All right. And we are back.
We are. The,
Okay, so basically where we're at.
how the pods work together, and then I found this picture
Yeah.
that looks great. I'm just trying to.
You know what's interesting about that picture? Is it kind of looks like a pair of lungs as well.
It does.
You know, branches
Really cool. idea here.
bifurcating, and then those branches bifurcating, and then those. So it's an exponential bifurcation, creating smaller and smaller network. You know, everything's connected though.
Absolutely.
So that is a perfect example. And I am planning on having maybe an Amazon store set up by the time that this episode posts. And that way I can direct you to some of the devices that I've currently bought and have been using, as well as I'll have links to some of the people that have really helped explain a lot of this Meshtastic stuff for me, you know, YouTube channels and stuff that I've watched. So
cool.
Let's see where we at. So I do. Oh, go ahead.
So no, I leave this. I got plenty that I can pull up here, kind of to do with rhizomes. The audience is going to see it probably a lot better than you can see it right now. But I can go down. I can read something if you see something that sticks out to you. I just thought that visual concept there, which does look like either the lungs or, you know, an arterial system or, I mean, anything.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, I think perfect for the panhandle primate. We've talked about how all nature kind of connects in the way that we do stuff works together. So,
oh, yeah.
I think it's a really cool concept.
Well, and it expresses.
Meshtastic.
Yeah, it expresses like the way that nature solves problems expresses itself as the most efficient way to solve a problem. So even if we're dealing with something that's a little less natural, like a Meshtastic radio wave, you know,
right,
system, it makes sense that, you know, forests and trees are trees and forests and trees. Trees in the forest, the way
the trees through the forest, or the
what
forest
they
through the tree?
exactly.
I'm confused now.
The way that they've shown is that their root systems actually make contact with each other, and that they can pass messages through the root systems.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
And then that's still, I mean, that looks a lot like the neurons in the brain too, and the way that those function together. I mean, everything is for sure connected.
It's like water. It's like it all comes back to water flows downhill.
It goes back to the path of least resistance.
Yeah, there has to be a vacuum pulling things in certain directions, and maybe that expresses itself in a certain way. Anyway, so through you can maybe back up to the philosopher. I'll keep talking until you find out whoever that dude was, or if you read something that's kind of interesting about him. Okay. Until then, I'll say one of the needs for a system like this, it was kind of interesting. I ended up coming across a video about Paul Revere the other day.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure about history. I'm a little skeptical about anything that I ingest from the internet. But what they were saying is that Paul Revere, what really set him apart and what made him so relevant was that he had created this underground communications network, in which case he could rally the troops. So the whole thing was it had to exist to where, like, hey, if the British get out of line and we decide that we're about to kick this thing off, I have to be able to tell everybody to come out. And then that's the only way that this thing works, you know? And so one of the reasons that the American Revolution got kicked off and was able to start and happen was because of a underground communications network that was unregulated by the state, you know?
Right.
Which is kind of interesting to think about because they were, of course, rebelling from the state.
Right.
They were separate, you know, like they were rebels.
So there's obviously a lot of different ways that device can be used. But I mean, there's, you know, the obvious implications of using it in the worst case scenarios, but at the same time, as simple as using it with the kids on the property, and eventually, if we build a good enough network in our community, where River and your boys and Emmett and Callahan can all communicate, and then they can communicate with their friends, but we don't have to worry about them necessarily until they figure out some way to make that device go onto the internet. We don't have to worry about them being and looking and doing things that
That's what I was
they
going to
don't need
say.
to be doing. They're just basically using that for a way to communicate.
One of the biggest benefits to the Meshtastic system is that it is low bandwidth. It's really good at sending texts. It's really good at sending words.
Can you pull your mic just a little bit closer?
Closer?
Yes.
Man, it sounds hot.
I think it's because you have your headphones turned up, but I'm looking at Signal, and we are.
I'm coming way down.
Well,
Okay.
both of us are running pretty low.
Maybe that's better.
That's definitely looking better.
Is that better right there?
Yeah, we're far
So I
from
think
peaking.
I just
We're
had
good.
him. I just had him too high in my head my headset. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so where was I at? What was I saying? Okay. It's low broadband,
Yes.
right? So we also, I feel like as parents, as new, as tech users, as really a first generation of cyborgs in a sense, right? We carry around super advanced computers with us all of the time,
Absolutely.
We completely rely on them. In a sense, we are reliant on them, This is a way of giving your kids more ability to communicate with each other, but you also restrict the ways that they can communicate. So no, you cannot call them with your voice. No, you cannot send them a video, and no, you cannot send them a picture. You can send them a message.
Right.
And I used to always like it. One of my wives, she said it. I can't remember who she got it from necessarily, but it was basically, if they can read it, like, you can't keep it from them. You know? Now, granted, it's different when you're talking about visuals and sounds and things that are projected onto you.
Yeah, but that's different. We're not talking about reading. I mean, it's the same as, everybody thought River was safe from the internet because they don't have the internet turned on a phone. Well, he's able to read how to turn on the internet, and he figured it out. He's like, well, it's Safari. It's not the internet. So it's all the internet.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you're on there. So even though he knows that without parental guidance that he's not allowed to be on the internet, and unfortunately, there's a lot of good stuff, but there's also a lot of bad stuff. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah, and you just want to, I always think back to whenever I was a kid, and I would walk into my living room, and I would push the red button on the controller. The TV would turn on, and I'd push 29, and it would go to Nickelodeon. And then I'd go one step up, and it was 30, and it was the WB, right? Like, there was a certain understanding that if I turned the TV on, I was safe as a kid.
Right.
And especially if you stay away from these channels, you're good, right? But there's still the activation of the TV, but then there's that layer of censorship with the channels that you're. But I kind of like the idea of limiting ourselves to text, and going back to a little bit of a less instantaneous, mode of thought process,
Which goes back to, we're using a newer technology to do things that have been around for millennia.
Forever.
Yeah.
I mean, think about I guarantee you there was always the gossip line, there was always news getting all over the place. There was always people communicating and having the ability to communicate. This is just the newest iteration, and I do think it is also in a sense, a responsibility. Like, it's really difficult. I've been having a lot of thoughts around freedom recently, and what does it actually mean to be free, and are you really free if you're just doing what you're allowed to do? It's like, no, I don't ever break the law, so I'm free. It's like, well, yeah, that means that you're doing exactly what the law is telling you to do. Does that mean, like, does that equate freedom necessarily?
I mean, I get where you're coming from
I
that
mean,
on that. For me, I don't have the desires to break the law.
no, no,
So
no,
for
no.
me, it's not.
I'm
It's
not
not.
saying
I'm
I'm
not,
not saying a desire to break the law necessarily.
Right.
I'm just saying it's, to me, it's an interesting, because I've thought about it a lot. Now, granted, the mind naturally jumps to individual versus the state
Right.
when we start talking about laws
Oh, yeah.
and freedom. But what if we were thinking about your weight, what kind of shape you're in? What do you put into your body? What do you get out of your body? What are you expecting to get out of your body? How are you treating your body, right? You can create freedoms in your life that are not state, civilian.
When I have a friend that's pretty harsh on it, I'm not going to mention the name, but one of his deals is he's seen a lot of trauma caused by drug use and drug abusers, and that's one of the things he sticks on. I mean, we could go on a million different routes on that, but his deal is like delegalize all of it, and let nature deal with itself. I mean,
Legalize all of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, legalize everything, and it'll kind of work itself out. We won't be having to worry about the people that we're worried about right now. We're not going to have to take care of them.
What's really funny,
it'll just work its way out.
like the vast majority of people that I've run on that have been drug overdose individuals, or
yeah, you've seen plenty of it too.
yeah, and most of them are like, shit, man, I fucked up, and you're like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, I knew instantly. It's like, yeah, I thought I was sniffing a Xanax. Like, that's what I was wanting to do, right? And I knew exactly how much of that Xanax I need to sniff, right? Mm-hmm. So they know I can cut it right here, I can do this, and I have this experience, right? Well, now they got something that was laced with something else. Mm-hmm. So they think it's one thing, and then they get it, break it up, and snort it, and it's a different thing, right?
I feel like it's survival of the fittest, but carry on.
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying is the danger for that person is not knowing what they're taking. Not them taking it. Not them taking it. Because that person, for instance, right? So we're treating, in that case, we have to treat an opioid overdose, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody chopped up a pill that they thought was one thing. They snorted it. They have zero tolerance for opioids because they are not an opioid user. They are not that's not their thing, right? So they now snort a huge load of opium and they overdose. So they're passed out. We have to come in. There's Narcan you can give them. And typically, once you give them Narcan, they come back to baseline pretty dang quick, Mm-hmm. And then they're pretty mad about what happened, or they'll tell you their story. All of that to say, the problem is not the drug itself or the experience that person is seeking. The problem is the quality of the drug, right? Because most people, and it's sad that they have to self-educate, but a lot of drug users are very self-educated on their drug. Like, they're not just like willy-nilly.
Right.
Most people are kind of like, oh, no, I want this much here and this much here and this much of this. Mm-hmm. And, hey, I'm getting a little crazy tonight, so give me a little bit more of this, right? Like, they know what they're doing. They're not jacking around necessarily.
Let's pull it back in. We're going a little bit off.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. This is your podcast, but I know
you're right.
You asked me to pull you back in. We're getting.
You do need to pull me back in. Where are we at? Where are we at time-wise?
Well, we were talking. That kind of got off.
Freedom. We went all the way back.
Freedom. Yeah, we went off on the tangent.
So I guess a portion of the idea of playing around with little devices like this and establishing the knowledge is that the knowledge is what leads to the freedom. Right. So man, we went way off.
We did. Just to kind of let you gather your stuff. Do you mind if I go ahead and pull up something I found here?
Yeah, dude, hit it.
So right here, when I was looking up philosophy based off of the rhizome theories, a multiplicity came up, and I know this is something that you have a lot of interest in. I know I've heard you talk about this before, but it just came up when I was looking for it. And one thing I saw in here is it's talking about the an essay that one of these other guys talked about. The idea of duration discusses multiplicity in light of the notion of unity, whereas a unity refers to a given thing, and as far as it is a whole, multiplicity refers to the parts of the unity which can be considered separately. So, I mean, this goes on to talk about more, but I think, again, on the rhizome thing that we're talking about, you're going to have multiple Meshtastic devices spread out over an area that people are using. So they are separate, but it is forming one unit, one network that is outside of any main network that you can buy into, or, there's no AT&T, no Verizon, none of those networks are involved. So we're talking about basically taking separate people and separate pods, like you said, pulling them together into one unit.
Yep, and dude,
network.
And I've had so many ideas around how you would use a network like this. Even just today, whenever I was like brainstorming for this thing, but I'm gonna keep it under control as much as I can today.
Yeah.
So, but.
We are at 40 minutes. We'll see
we're
how
at 40
control.
minutes.
Yeah, we'll see how much control you keep on.
All right.
Well, let's definitely hit some of your points. You want
we'll hit a few points. We'll work our way through this as quickly as possible. It'll probably take at least 20 minutes, so it'll put us at an hour. All right. So I think there are 3 different aspects that are worth considering around the Meshtastic network.
Okay.
And that each person should start to consider for themselves. One is hardware. The second point is software, and the third point is mindset. These are the 3 aspects that I feel like really are important in this pursuit of building of starting to think more off-grid. Mm-hmm. I always think about, have you seen some of the cyberpunk stuff?
Yes.
It's like kind of, you watching it, and they're super high tech, and they're doing all this stuff, and you're like, it almost looks cool that they're able to do all these tricks. But you think about it, if you grow up with them, it's not anything different than field dressing a deer. If you grow up field dressing a deer, so it's just what you kind of grew up as what do they call them, digital natives? I think that's what I'm called now, a digital native. I grew up in the digital world, So anyway, let's jump into the 3 different aspects real quick. So first, we'll have to talk about the hardware.
Okay.
So you need a LORA board, which is inside this, and it is inside this. Whoop. But it is not inside this, right? The cell phone does not have it. And so you need a little transponder. You need a LoRa board to be able to transmit the signal. Okay. You need to also consider solar batteries, which I think we should all be considering, is more
rechargeable. Not only like the rechargeable packs. Sorry to interrupt right there.
No,
real
interrupt.
Quick, it is something that is like fresh on my mind. We go through a lot of batteries. Having a young, 8-year-old son, every single thing we have is batteries. And I realized now that I have more time on my hands, I'm the one that's dealing with this stuff at home. And I had been stacking these batteries up that are dead on the counter, looking at them going, man, that's really wasteful. Where does this stuff go? It's not good stuff. But I know it's now that I use rechargeable batteries in my business when I was running for my lasers, for everything that I used, I had rechargeable batteries. And they sell some really good stuff now, batteries that have a long life expectancy on them. So, and you can get enough of them that you always constantly have charged batteries. So it's kind of wasteful to even be buying batteries at this point when technology has moved to the point that we can buy really nice AA, AAA, D battery setups, all of that. I mean, your initial investment is going to be pretty hefty, but if you look over the lifetime of how much you burn buying these batteries, and the battery life expectancy now is not the same as it used to be. It's the same as anything. We're in a throwaway
all getting
society.
better.
Anyways,
It's weird that we're simultaneously in a society that builds batteries that can last way longer and are rechargeable, simultaneously in a society that builds batteries that are disposable. You know, like that's kind of interesting. You think that
there's not as much money
in the rechargeable.
That's right. I think that's the same as anything.
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this, and I'm gonna stop interrupting you.
No, do your thing, man.
When we get to the philosophy part, or the what were your 3 points? We were talking about hardware, software, and what was the third one?
Mindset.
So when we get to that, I got some stuff.
No, pull it up, dude. We'll jump.
Okay, well,
now, I was pretty much done right there. The only other thing I was going to say about hardware is that you need a computer interface. And so that I think is interesting in a lot of different ways, because all of the code, if you are a coder, it seems like it would be easy code.
With AI, I got some friends that's way out of my wheelhouse, but I got friends that are guys that code and build code that are now using AI for most of their builds.
Oh yeah.
And they say it's a lot more accurate, a lot more efficient, and overall is the way it's going. So that's kind of one of those trades that's going to eventually fold. I agree.
The artist, there's always a canvas.
Oh, yes.
And there's always an artist that is playing with that canvas.
Correct.
And to me, that at least, I mean, now granted, this could be in complete ignorance, but what I see AI as is a canvas that somebody can paint on. If you don't know how to use it correctly, it's going to become really obvious really quickly who uses it well and who doesn't use it well. And it's going to be pretty obvious that it is being used. You know?
And I agree with that, but as they keep on making it more sentient, I was trying to think of a word that's probably not even really the word I want to use, but as it starts becoming more where it's doing its own thing, I mean, they've made plenty of movies about it. I really do think that eventually we're going to have some issues with that, because...
Well, that's the paperclip argument. Have you ever heard the paperclip hypothesis? I can't remember what it's called. Paperclip, maybe.
But I'm using it, and I see like these great uses for the AI now. I was like, I'm not gonna use it. There's no stopping that train. It's going.
The old adage is that eventually they're gonna create a paperclip making machine, and it says, we tell it, hey, your one job, the only thing that you need to worry about in this world is making paperclips. That's number one. And it says, I have to optimize making paperclips? And they say, yes. And so it starts optimizing. What does that mean? That's not optimizing for human survival. It's making paperclips. So it's milling up everything and turning everything into paperclips. And before long, it kills humanity, because humanity is preventing it from making paperclips, you know?
Right.
And so it's kind of like, yeah, it can have a kind of a benign start, but still end up being
in the same spot that we're talking about. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's inevitable that it looks at humanity's self-destructive behavior and says, hey, I mean, somebody was given the forethought of, hey, we're a destructive force to ourselves, and AI eventually will say, hey, we need to fix you. You're broke.
It depends on what it's optimizing for.
Absolutely.
You know?
And right now, maybe there's enough, but, there's some old videos. I wish we had time to pull those up, and I may look for those here in a minute, but Elon Musk, along many other people that are using AI regularly now for all their stuff, warned against that and said we need to put in some safety measures ahead of time before we just full blast go and say, hey, we're going to use AI. So, I mean, and we're talking 10 to 15 years ago, they were already saying we need to put some measures, some boundaries to AI, and have this be more of a worldwide.
You know me though,
deal.
dude. I'm freaking skeptical as hell. So like whenever I hear them saying that,
Mm-hmm.
I hear them saying we're developing AI
We're
and
gonna
we
put it-
want
hold
everybody
on.
else to be stopped because we want to be the only ones that have the AI. Like that's what I hear whenever I hear stuff like that. Like because like think about it, Elon Musk has Grok. That's one of the main AI
Oh no,
generators right now,
he's
you know.
admitted now.
Like
Yeah, there's no
he's
doubt.
doing it all.
Yeah.
Like they're all gonna do it all. I mean, and I think that that's kind of the old like what I loved about like old Greek mythology was there was always the hubris comes before the fall, and there is no avoiding the hubris, and there is no avoiding the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Americans now, I feel like modern American thought is no, I can avoid the fall. You know, like I can
Well,
avoid the hubris when in reality it's actually understanding that there is no way of avoiding the fall or the hubris, you know.
I'm with you on that. There is a shift that's happening though. I was talking with Dad this morning about it. I think with the kids that are coming up, and I think our sons are going to be even the next step past that. But you know, they had, I think, reported 2 arrests at Larry Joe Taylor this weekend. Well, that's phenomenal. I mean,
Nothing.
it's nothing considering at any given point there were 11,000 people at that deal.
They're very pacified.
49,000 overall comes into a small place like Stephenville or Erath County. But yes, they were pacified. I also believe that the culture's changing. So these kids that are going to the shows now, and I know we go too, but when we were kids, it was about going and drinking as much as we could and basically, I mean, be slobbering drunk. I feel like there's kind of a new movement now of health and lifestyle.
Yeah, they don't party.
And working out, that they all know that today they have things to do. So they don't party the same as we do.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that there's more knowledge now, knowledge base with the internet and all that of the effects of drinking heavy.
Oh yeah.
And what that does to you long term that we didn't have. Not that may or may not have made a difference, but there is a different culture.
No, I 100% agree with that. And you know, we went out to LJT and it really did feel super mild to me. I mean,
because I got videos where it is crazy out there from 10 years ago. I mean, just insane.
Yeah, no, I think it's, you know, it's just like everything progresses. You know, we ended up meeting out. That's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about Larry Joe Taylor on a different show.
Okay, well, hey, I got something pulled up here just to get us back on. We're at 52 minutes right now.
Boom.
But we'll go ahead and put this over here. So, I just to kind of, because we are talking about Meshtastic, you know, this is what Wikipedia had to say with it, so I figured we'd pull it up. You can't read that from over there, can you?
No, not a chance.
Well, you know a lot more about it than I do, but I will read it back for you. Just pulling up Meshtastic. I mean, I've been pulling up all kinds of things. All I did was type in to get to this point was off-grid network and off-grid network mindsets, and Meshtastic was one of the first things that come up. So it is a movement.
It's you. I mean it. I'm not telling.
I never heard about it till you said something.
Oh, I know, and it blows my mind that I'm one of the only proselytizers of this you know, that I come across. I mean, I'd love to bump into somebody and be like, oh yeah, I know about that.
So let me pull this down here so I can read it. Meshtastic is a decentralized wireless off-grid mesh networking, LORA protocol. LORA, okay. If I go in on that, oh no, man, I bet we overheated over there.
We overheated the camera.
Yeah, let me see real quick if I can do something different. What I'm gonna do is actually turn this camera around that I'm using right here and let it finish. Let's finish the podcast with you, or we can pause it for a minute I can come over and see what's going on with the camera. But most likely, that's the first time I've ran that camera that long. I'm guessing maybe it got hot.
Well, so is my voice still coming through?
Oh, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, here, let's just do this. Let's just run out reading what you're reading right there, and then we'll just call it good. I think people have seen me enough.
Okay. Well, and I got some stuff that I can kind of show on the screen. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for them since they are here. It's not my podcast, but they're going to get to see me at least. But I'm going to make this a little bit bigger while we're talking about it. And you're well aware of what's going on with Meshtastic, so jump in at any point.
Oh, yeah, do you think?
Let
Let's
me
go.
know.
Let's rock.
Okay. So I'm just going to kind of highlight LORA real quick. Is a physical proprietary radio communication technique. It is based on spread spectrum modulation techniques derived from chirp spread spectrum technology. It was developed by Saclio, a company of Grenoble, France, patented in 2014. And then that just goes on, but that kind of gives you an idea of what LORA is. Reading on a little bit further past that, I just figured I would say what that is. The main goal of the project is enabling low power, long range communication over unlicensed radio bands, which I think we've been discussing plenty of why that's important.
Oh yeah.
It is
the biggest factor with it being unlicensed means that you can do it. You can practice with it. Mm-hmm. If you need a license to practice, right, you have to get the license first. Right. If it's unlicensed, that means you can go ahead and start practicing now. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Anyway.
And I think I'm going to turn this camera back on you just so we can finish out.
No, dude, keep. I think you're doing a great job. I'm actually really enjoying what you're reading.
Okay. So, it is designed around exchanging text messages and data in off-grid environments with potential applications in low-T projects where a decentralized communication system is needed without existing infrastructure.
Oh, booyah.
So if I go to this low-T or LOT, it describes devices with sensors, processing ability, software, and other technologies that connect and exchange data with other devices and systems over the internet or other communication networks.
Booyah.
Okay. So that's kind of a breakdown of that. It goes on to say Meshtastic uses LORA peer-to-peer.
Ooh, peer-to-peer.
And that's another, P2P. We'll go ahead and break that down real quick. Computing or networking is a distributed application architecture that partition tasks or workloads between peers. Peers are equally privileged, equipotent participants in the network, forming a peer-to-peer network of nodes, which we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
In addition to a personalized area network, which I think, you could probably kind of expound on that real quick on the personalized area network. That's what we'd be using for Huckabee, for instance, right?
So, think about it this way, right? If, let's say I'm a kid at school, mm-hmm. and I want to text my friends at school, and I take this device, it works really well at school because we're all right in this little congested area. Mm-hmm. But the second you get further away, that's when you need to get on the internet, right? Because the signal can't make that big jump. So, if you do have permanent nodes, then it becomes more similar. Ooh, sorry. It becomes more similar to a cellular service. It becomes more similar to a cellular network, Mm-hmm. Because then you can, and that's one, this dude named Andy Kirby. You should pull up Andy Kirby, or Meshcore, actually. Pull up Meshcore website. That'd be an interesting thing, because this is what I'm wanting to transition to. I'm wanting to transition all of my devices to Meshcore, and then try to get 100 more devices in our area, just to try to create like a pretty robust network, you know?
That's Meshcore comes up as like some heavy metal.
Mm.
Yeah, heavy metal oriented offshoot of hardcore. So,
Meshcore, that's weird. So I
Beat
wonder
down-
if they
well,
wear
it
like
comes up as-
fishnet nipple shirts. You know what I'm talking
know.
about?
Beat down hardcore.
Meshcore.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah, it does not exist. That's
No, just look in
but
the-
We do have a wireless mesh network. How
No,
about
go
that?
up to
No?
the top again. Type it in like your web browser.
Okay. That's what I did. Oh, well.
That was in
I did it in
Wikipedia. I don't know if
Wikipedia.
that's interesting that doesn't have that there's not a Meshcore page on Wikipedia yet. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know right now that I can just pull that up. Oh, here we go. Google. Let me see if I can refresh this. I'd hate to have everybody just sitting here waiting while I'm trying to figure this out. But
Well, how about this? While you're trying to figure that out, I guess I'm gonna have to tease again for the next episode because I got a lot of stuff left.
oh,
Like
really?
maybe we'll do the mindset in a different episode.
Well, why don't we just right now, if we're gonna have to break this up in two, and since we had a little bit of an issue with the camera, since we still have some time, I'd like to see what happened with that. Try to get that fixed for the next episode.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. How about we
just
call it a show?
Yeah, let me pull this up and turn it back on you so you can kind of take us out. It won't only take a second.
Oh, here we go. Oh.
Oh, hey, look,
Oh.
I got you
Yeah.
all crooked. Yeah, I'll straighten you up. Hold on. I hope nobody gets seasick here.
Yeah, ooh.
Motion sickness.
No joke.
And now they get a little another view
Whoa.
of the studio.
Yeah. Y'all getting the full tour here.
Yeah, really. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
How's that?
Am I in?
Yeah,
Am I
you're
in?
in
Am I
it,
in
bro.
the shot?
Yeah.
I'm just in a little corner of the shot though.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna pull you out. Hold on.
Let's see how this
Let's
goes.
get you.
Everybody, this is OSB Studio, OBS Studios. Trying to.
How's that? Let's see right there. Boom.
I'm
It's a little
alive.
grainy,
I'm
but,
alive.
you know,
Is it
we
pretty?
got you.
Is, a little grainy.
Well, I mean, it's not made for that kind of shot. but-
Right. Well, I want to say thank you for listening. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the show. We're about to get a lot more consistent, I believe,
Yeah.
because we're gonna have the studio's now gonna be set up, and I mean the camera. Like we're still learning, we're still figuring out, we're still jumping through some hoops. We're getting there. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you do enjoy this content, please follow me on Instagram, Panhandle Primate. That's probably, if you even like try to get in touch with me, that'd probably be a good spot to get in touch with me. Or you can go through the website, or probably not even my email. I get a lot of spam. It's hard to find emails. So anyway, thank you for listening, and Trent, thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And until next time, thank y'all for tuning in, and peace out.
Peace out, y'all.